Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys already know this is Tony. I am your host, and of course, guys already know I'm bringing another amazing guest to you guys today. So hopefully, you guys are ready to hear this conversation. Get your questions and comments ready because the guy that I got today, you guys, he's freaking amazing, right? And he's a big deal. So before I bring him up here, though, I would like to say if this is your first time tuning in, please do me a favor. Head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, that this is for educational purposes only. Now, do me a favor and help me welcome my next guest. You guys have seen him on TV. If you guys live in Vegas, you guys already know what I'm talking about. This is the man, the myth, the legend. This is my friend, Big Steven Diamond. Steven, how you doing, brother?
How are you, my friends? Good to see you. And hello to all your viewers out there. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, man. So before we get started, man, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay. So my name is Steven Diamond. I am the founder of LifeSkillsMasterclass.com, which is an online training course for stress and anxiety management. I teach people how to find their authentic selves, how to dig deep within themselves and find out who and what they truly are. And we've just closed our last class for 2024. And so the members that are in the course right now will finish sometime in January. And in March of next year, we will be launching a new version of our course called the Metacognition Codex program. And this particular program is going to teach people not only how to release their stress and anxiety, but it's going to teach you how to begin the process of spiritually awakening, how to find your authentic self and make sure that your inside and your outside are congruent and aligned with one another.
I love that, man, because I think a lot more people need to be aligned with themselves, right? This is one of the missions that I've been on for quite some time. Wanting to know more about why I'm here, wanting to know more about me, right? And shedding a lot of the things that I thought that I needed, right? And for me, it was more of understanding the subconscious mind and pretty much understanding where it cut me off at it, and then opening up the mind for the unconscious mind to be able to flow freely within the world, as well as bring back wisdom and guidance for me, right, along this path that I've been on for like almost 6 years. And it's been this beautiful journey, man. Beautiful journey, because what I find that it does is that it allows me to be able to connect with people on such a level that that most people wouldn't even believe that is possible.
You're absolutely correct. I'll take it one step further than that. A lot of people don't realize that everything you need is already within you.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this work for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And when I coach people how to find their authentic selves, how to live in their authenticity, one of the things that I talk about is how your subconscious mind and your conscious mind need to be in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people talk to me about balance and they're like, oh, I need to find balance in their life. And, I've never been one that has subscribed to the balance theory. And I'll tell you why. When things are balanced like this, there's no movement. It becomes stagnant.
Yes.
And so when the scales are just slightly off, you now have the motivation that you need to keep going. And I'll give you an example. It's like people who win the lottery. They think that when they win the lottery, that money is going to solve all their problems. And what they find is that it actually creates bigger problems.
Right.
They're more complex and more difficult to deal with. The more money you have, the more stress and anxiety and the bigger problems that you're going to have to deal with. That's just a part of the process. And what I've learned through all of this is that when you set the right expectations for your life, and you go into it without attachment to the outcome, you find that things get so much easier. And a lot, especially in the work that you do, the grief work, a lot of that work is rooted in the psychological blocks that we have as human beings,
Right.
that are just ingrained in us, and they're put there by not only societal conditioning, but by conditioning from our families, the family we grew up in, the indoctrination of their belief system, their politics, their religion, their way of life, their lifestyle. All of those things contribute to the blocks that we build within us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a life challenge like losing someone comes up in your life, you struggle to deal with it because previously, unknowingly, you subscribed to and adopted all of these different blocks in your life that prevent you from seeing things the way they truly are. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's the same thing in the words that I've helped people understand is perception versus reality, right? The things that you may perceive may not necessarily be the reality that you're living in, correct? You know,
well, I'll tell you, our political situation has just proven that.
This is very true, right? You know, like it's like, hey, you know, like as they say, my brother, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, right? It's a sleight of hand, as in your field, right? Being a magician and everything, it's a sleight of hand. You know what I'm saying? Hey, watch this.
It is.
And then next thing you know, you're looking like, oh, what just happened over here?
Right? Yeah, while you were looking over there, something else was happening over here.
You know, and people don't really understand that aspect of it. I'm like, hey, you know, before you get caught up into everything, maybe you should read the words that are being put in front of you in black and white, but also don't miss the underlying words that they just reworded a little bit. They just made it a little bit longer to confuse you, you know. So don't be, you know, don't get caught up in those things. And a lot of people, you know, as we found, have voted against their own best interests in this election, you know. Now
they're going to learn the hard way. And listen, we're getting ready to go. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of your viewers that will have a completely different opinion from what I'm talking about. And that's okay. But the point I want to make is that there are always consequences to our actions.
Yes.
And there will be consequences. We are getting ready as a country to go into a very, very dark, very, very difficult time.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of people that see it that way. There are millions and millions and millions of people out there that see it completely the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But no matter how you see it, the truth is the truth is the truth.
Right.
And the consequences of your actions are going to come to bear. And for the very first time as a country in modern times, I think that we are all about to learn that very, very hard lesson. And this goes back to what you said about voting against your own best self-interest.
Mm-hmm.
We do that every day in our brains and we don't realize it.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Every single day we make what I call micro decisions, little tiny decisions that seem insignificant, but the sum total of all those decisions that you made over the course of a week can really have a lasting effect on the quality of the life that you live. And, you know, take, for example, when you lose a loved one, there's a lot that happens emotionally. There's a lot that happens physically in that whole situation, and it's a lot to deal with. Sometimes I know that recently I lost my own sister. And one of the things that happened, we were fortunate that it didn't happen in our family, but I've seen it happen in other families. There was no infighting about money or anything like that. But a lot of times when someone dies in a family, you suddenly see the family members, the body's not even cold yet, and they start fighting over dollars and cents and items, possessions, homes, cars, things like that. And
They really do.
what is that? What is that? That is a fear-based mindset. They are afraid that if they don't fight to get something, they will be left out. And it is a lack mentality. Anytime you are coming from that place in your life and you're making decisions, you're going to make bad decisions that are going to create consequences that you are going to have to deal with, that's going to affect the quality of the life that you're living. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. You know, it's the same thing. Now, backtracking a little bit, being in the world, especially being in this field that I'm in, right? And don't get me wrong. Look, man, totally in love with grief, right? And everything about it. I love the way that it moves. I love the way that it shifts around, right? I love the unbalance of it. I love the messiness of it, right? Because I love to see people begin to straighten things out. I love seeing people find themselves within the midst of it. But also, I enjoy walking with them, right? Because it allows me a chance to give them something of what I carry, to help them see beyond what they're actually experiencing, right?
But Tony, if they didn't have any of that messiness that you were talking about, there would be no growth.
Right. And that's what I mean, right? And we're both on the same page. That growth is fundamental into you finding who you are, right? Not everybody's going to go out and do the same things that we do. And that's perfectly fine, right? But again, it goes back to what you said about the politics. What we both was discussing about voting things into your best interest or voting against your best interest. And now, when I break it down into the grief field, I often say the biggest struggle that a person will have is trusting yourself, right? To do what comes naturally to you, we tend to fight that instinctively. Same thing with voting. Instinctively, you know that this is not the best decision for you, but you choose to do it anyway. Now,
that's correct.
And then when it has a strange way of coming back and biting you in your butt, then you want to complain about the decision that you made.
Yeah. Sometimes I want to mention a caveat here, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. I'll give you an example. And I talk about this on Netflix in the documentary series. For those of you who don't know, I'm in a Netflix documentary series called Tiger King. And it covers a 15-year period of my early life, where I grew up in a cult. And sometimes you are in a situation through no fault of your own, or sometimes through your own fault, and you don't realize the danger that you're in or the seriousness of the situation that you put yourself in, because you don't know what you don't know. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who make decisions and then suffer the emotional consequences or the physical consequences of that decision later on. And that is something that I want people to think about when they're going through their everyday lives. And a lot of what I teach in my stress and anxiety management course is about being conscious of how and what you think. Because when you learn to harness the power of your thoughts, when you learn how to harness and redirect your own personal energy, you now gain access to a whole series of skills and emotions that you didn't even know existed. And you become kind of a superhuman. You have these abilities to control yourself in ways that you just didn't know about before, because no one ever teaches us how to go through grief. No one says to us when we're kids, look, at some point in your life, you're going to experience many losses. And some of those losses will be friends and family that you truly, deeply care about. Yeah. And this is what you should do. A, B, C, D. That never happens. So when it does happen in our life, we don't know what to do. And that's where you get the emotional outbursts. That's where you get the struggle and the strife and the hardship. It's not only the loss, it is the inability to process those emotions
Mm-hmm.
because no one ever showed us how.
Right. Right. And we've talked about this, you guys. If you didn't have, if you haven't checked out the first episode that Stephen and I have done, go back and check out it because he shares a lot about his life and about his Netflix series as well. Go check that out on Netflix, man. Stephen, he's freaking amazing. I'm telling you right now, you guys don't want to miss what he got going on. He has a lot of stuff going on as well, which we'll get into. Um, you know, we as a human race, man. We forgot to have conversations around what we're talking about, right? And so, and now I'm speaking from a man's perspective. Please, you know what I'm saying, chime in or let me know what you think about this. But we as men, we're not taught to be emotional, man. We're not
It's the
taught
opposite.
yeah, we're taught to man up. All these things. Anybody that knows me that was tuned in and heard my story and things like that, or or even been in one of my classes, you guys already know. You know, we as men, we're taught to man up. We're taught to not to be weak. We're taught that this is our roles. One of the most valuable lessons that I learned, which is actually disappointing, you know, because just recently I was in the hospital, you know, and it was just a roller coaster. So I had to take some time for myself, right, in order to heal, to recover, and all those things. And I've had, you know, I got a lot of things going on in the background that people know about, but some people don't know about. You know, magazine, they got books and stuff, you know, conferences and things like that. And so I put up a post saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take some time to myself. Do you know those same people that are in my field?" Were the same ones who called me up. Hey, I know that you got some things going on right now, but I need to know what about this, right? I didn't have that break. So it pretty much proved to me again that no one cares about what we go through. And so I stopped. I stopped, and there was a lot of people who got mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, as someone who's in this field along with me, these are the things that we teach other people to do, and you just went off and you did this to me again. So why would I want to open up to you? Right. And
Yeah.
it sounds, because I'm a firm believer. I want to open up to people. I want people to know, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like right now, I just need some time, you know, and let me reach out to you. Right. Um, but it was just one of those things. It was disappointing, but not really surprising, you know. But I had to come back to him later on and go, hey, remember when you did this? Yeah, don't do that to no one else. Please don't do that to no one else.
Yeah, I think it comes from a place of not knowing what to do in those situations. People are always thinking about themselves. And it really is an interesting thought experiment to look around as you go through your day-to-day activities around town and be conscious of the fact who's paying attention to you. And what you find out is that no one's paying attention to you because everyone is consumed with their own lives.
Right.
And they're all, and that's just a natural part of being a human being. And it's nothing personal, but we take it personal.
Yeah.
And when you realize that people come, I run a support group on Facebook that has 2,600 people in it. And on any given day, I'll get 50, 60 messages from people who are struggling in their own lives with various situations. I have this beautiful girl in my group who was actually one of the original members, I think, when I started the group like 3-4 years ago. And she's deaf and she can't hear at all. And so I literally had to change things about the groups just so that she could participate and feel included. And she wrote me the sweetest letter and said, no one's ever done that for me. No one's ever paid attention to me because I can't hear. They just exclude me the second they find out that I'm hearing impaired. And so I started putting captions on all the videos that I was posting in the group, just so this one particular member could read the captions and could understand the videos.
Right.
And it really made a difference to her. And I think, and it touched me with how how important it was for her that I made those changes within the group.
Right.
And I started thinking, I even asked the group, what other disabilities are in the group that I need to be aware of, that we might be able to help in some way. And I got a flood of people responding and saying, you know, I struggle with this, I struggle with that. I've got another member in the group who's illiterate, who sent me a private message and said, I'm a 72-year-old man. I grew up in, well, I don't want to say where he grows up because I don't want to identify him, but he basically was a 72-year-old man that never learned to read or write. And it was his biggest secret. And when I posted that message about disabilities, he wrote back to me and said, I can't read or write, and I struggle with learning. And so I started talking to him on a weekly basis and started communicating with him privately, because I wanted him to understand that his disability was not a disadvantage in my group, and that I was going to pay attention to him and include him any way that I could. And I think that if each of us just tried just a little bit, 1%, if we just tried to be kind to other people and see things from other people's perspectives, that it will go a long way to improving the quality of our own life, because I know that that's true with me in this situation.
Right. And you know, I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because I just got done with my first men's group, Resilience, and it's a program that I put together designed to do exactly that, right? To figure out where I can be, where I can strengthen up that those barriers of communication, and more importantly, where can I strengthen those barriers of understanding who is struggling with what, right? So I can make those necessary adjustments, but also to see how the program would stand up. You know, I hit all the bases and everything to help others understand, especially with those men, to help them understand, but also to help them navigate it as well. And so it was a really good experience. And it proves exactly what I thought, right? You know, like, there's some areas where I can improve on, and I'm going to. I want it to be that sort of program. And so I'm relaunching my program January the 11th, which is now, people are like, hey, when is going to be hybrid? When is going to be virtual and things like that, right? For those who are out of state, right? Because I really, it hurt my heart that I couldn't offer the virtual aspect of it. But this one, I worked with a lot of immigrants. So I wanted to understand where they were coming from. It hit the mark. So the next one it will be hybrid. It's going to be both in person as well as virtual. I
think that's great, because you're going to reach more people.
Exactly. But now, as we've talked about this before, and I found it fascinating when we was talking about it, AI.
Yeah, I own a AI digital marketing company, as you know.
Yeah.
DiamondAIMediaGroup.com for anybody that wants to check it out. AI has changed everything. And I wrote an article for your magazine, Tony, and in that article, I talk about how AI can be used to help us heal. And I have just been fascinated with AI since its infancy, and I actually had exposure to it long before the general public did. So I was able to get to be way more familiar with it. By the time it was released publicly, I was already a year ahead. And so I learned a lot through that experience. But I'll tell you, one of the most interesting things is just to have a conversation with it. In fact, I think it would be interesting to do a little experiment right now, where we can turn on, I have ChatGPT on my phone, and this is the voice feature. And I just want to show you something really simple. It's as simple as this. Now, you don't get this in the free version of ChatGPT. You only get it on the paid version. It's $20 a month. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Imagine having a resource just like this. Hi, are you there?
I sure am. How can I help you today?
You know, I recently lost my sister, and I'm really struggling with it. Can you help me with a process to deal with my grief?
I'm so sorry for your loss. Grieving is a deeply personal journey, and finding ways to cope can be challenging. Here are a few suggestions that might help you navigate this tough time. 1. Express yourself. Whether through talking, writing, or creating art, expressing your feelings can be incredibly healing. Consider keeping a journal to explore your emotions. Connect with others. Sharing memories and feelings with friends or family can provide comfort. Joining a support group can also help you feel less alone.
So the point I'm making is that this will go on and on and on, but we now have the technology to get the answer to literally any question that we have, whether you're struggling with grief, whether you're struggling with depression, whether you're struggling with anything in your life, you now have a mentor, you now have an access point, I guess you would say, that is smarter than you will ever be on your very best day.
Mm.
And it has all of the written knowledge in all of humanity. It has that within it. So it can draw from that knowledge and guide us in ways that a lot of people don't think about. And I think I started experimenting with it a while ago because I saw the potential of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible, because now you have this mentor. That's really what I like to call it, that you could go to and ask any question and get factual answers that are unbiased. And I think that it is so important, and it's so life-changing, and it's going to do so much to help so many people out there. And while I was experimenting with this, I started writing prompts, AI prompts that would help people with some of these situations.
Mhm.
And I spent days and days and days experimenting with different prompts, different words, how to fill in the blanks so that it would then be able to take the information and give me an output that I could use in my life to help me overcome whatever challenge I might be facing. I sent you one of those prompts, and I put it in the article.
Yes, I've sent it to my publicist, so people can have access to it as well. And I found it very interesting, and it as always, it poses the question, does that make us, individuals like myself, obsolete?
No.
Right? I mean, yeah, but these are the things. Now I'm asking a question that pertaining to that's going to be one of those big concerns with people, because if you can get that information from AI,
Mhm.
right? Then people wouldn't see a need for someone like myself, or someone who's in a different field than me, and things like that. And I'm right there with you. I'm like, no, because it can never replace human connection. Now AI will learn everything about you,
Correct.
and will give you what you need in order to help navigate that and everything. And we just got a comment over here. People need people. Yes, that's what we're talking about, though. But we're also looking at the benefits of AI. And as a grief worker, when I talked to Stephen about it, I was like, man, what does that put me on the map, man? But it's also
Let me answer that question, Tony.
Yeah, please.
Let me answer that question, because I think it's a very important question, and it's a question a lot of people are going to have. So there is technology that's being developed right now. Well, let me back up. Let's talk about the effect of technology and what it's had over us over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that social media did exactly what social media was designed to do, which was connect us all virtually. But in doing so, what we didn't realize is that it was going to separate us individually.
Yes.
And so that became a side effect of all of this fabulous new technology that we were developing. And what it's created is now it's created this vacuum, this void that we're all living in, because now as human beings, we're starting to realize, just like what your viewer just said to you, people need people. That is so important, and it's so correct.
Mm-hmm.
We do need people. And what we're learning at this point in the social media experience is that social media has actually devolved us to a certain extent, because now we're so in love with our devices and we have a relationship with our device that we have neglected the relationships in our real life. And as a result of this, I am beginning to see a shift in the collective consciousness of humanity, where we are now starting to understand this on a global scale, and people are starting to move back towards the human connection again. People are actually looking for events. That's why concerts and music festivals have exploded since the pandemic, because what the pandemic did was, for the very first time, it brought the entire planet to a stop, and it forced people to think about their lives for the very first time. Truly introspectively look at their lives and examine, who am I? What am I doing? Does any of this make sense? Am I just going to work to pay bills? Is there any quality of life in that? Why? So all of these existential questions that we ask ourselves, for the very first time, people started asking themselves those questions by and large during the pandemic.
Right.
When we came out of the pandemic, people started looking for more to life than just going to work to pay bills. And that is the beginning of bringing people back together. Now let's talk about this political situation right now, which is so divisive. I also believe that as divisive and dark as this period is we're getting ready to go into, I think the ultimate effect will be unifying on the other end, because I think it's going to show people that the consequences of their actions were not in their best interest.
Right. Right.
And I think that people are going to start looking, because it's very clear on a consciousness level. We all understand that the world is on a path that is unsustainable. We cannot continue down the path we are and survive as a species.
Right.
So I think the only answer is to come back together as a species and stop all of this silly division that is on both sides. It's not just Republican or Democrat, it's on both sides.
Right.
And it's silly, and it doesn't work, and it's deconstructive. And I think that it's got to stop in some form. And I think that when we get on the other side of this really difficult, dark period that we're going to go through, I think that the outcome will be a greater unification, that maybe to a large extent excludes religion and politics, because those are the two things that divide everybody.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that those two things will be removed from the equation. And I think people will start seeing each other more eye to eye, and they'll start connecting with each other more that way.
I want to add to that. And for everyone who's tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, YouTube, and everything. If you guys have any questions or comments, or any questions for myself or other Stephen, please put them in the comment section. And thank you guys for tuning in as well. I see you guys over there, man. Keep coming on in. Keep coming on in, right? We're having a blast over here. We're talking about it. We're having that conversation. And you guys have always heard me say this before. The biggest thing that to add to what you're saying, Stephen, the biggest thing that we need to do is that we need to start to heal, right? Because through this division that we've had, there's been a lot of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people really understand the destruction that's being caused, and the amount of grief in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
And the way that we have dismissed one another
Mm-hmm.
has been detrimental to us as a species. It has been very detrimental. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people out there, like including myself, including like yourself, that genuinely care about the people that we're around. You know, and you know, and I reach out to my colleagues, you know, the thousands, the tens of thousands of colleagues that I have across the world, and I'm going, hey, this is our time. We need to be on the front lines because now we're being called. All this training, all of these things that we have been doing, it's time to show up and take our rightful place, because now because you know, with every skill that we all have, this is the time that we unify, and this is the time that we can go out and reach those individuals, you know, saying as a unit, we move as a unit so our communities can start to heal. Then
let me give you some good news there. AI can't do that.
Yes, that's but you know, but that's been the biggest thing about it, right? You know, people not understanding how deep AI goes, right? And the whole the misconception of it and things like that. And you know, as my man said over here, people need people, you know, and that will always remain true. There is nothing more powerful than a human touch.
Tony, in the article that you're going to publish that I wrote for you, that AI prompt in there, I want people to understand that all they have to do is copy and paste that prompt. And then you'll see sections in there where you fill in the blank for your situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hit enter, and it's going to give you a step-by-step methodology of how to begin the healing process for you that's customized for you, for your specific situation. And I think that that's really important, because sometimes all we need to do is be led to the water hole. Sometimes we can't find the water hole. We don't know where it's at. But then when someone grabs you by the hand and says, this way, brother, let me show you where it's at,
mm-hmm.
then you can drink. And I think that the healing process begins with knowledge. And a lot of people don't heal because they don't know how. They've never been taught. And so if you don't know how to heal, I've had a lot of tragedy in my life.
Right.
And a lot of the work that I do comes out of that tragedy. And it's taught me not just resiliency, but it's taught me that there is wisdom in the uncertainty of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Trust the process. Trust the healing process. And when you feel like you need to cry, you cry. And you let it out. And you express yourself. If that's how you need to express yourself in that moment, you do it. And you don't hold it back. You don't suppress it. You don't buy into this toxic masculinity of just suck it up, of just, you know, be a man. That's all gross BS that we were taught when we were kids that does absolutely nothing but teach us to compartmentalize our psychological trauma, deal with it another day. But guess what happens? When you do that, it then gets to determine when, how, and where it shows back up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be in the middle of the worst time in your life. It could be in the middle of the best time in your life. You don't know when it's going to manifest and how it's going to manifest and what it's going to dig up for you.
Right.
And so I think that knowledge is key. And when we just wrap our arms around people who are suffering and say, here, let me show you what worked for me. Everybody's different, and what worked for me may not work for you, but this is what I did to heal. It's a place to begin. It's a place to start. And I think that sometimes that's all people need, is they just need to know where to start.
And that's the hardest part, right? And
Because you're
I
in
was
shock, especially in the grief situation when someone dies.
especially dealing with men, right?
Yes.
Men, we don't know where to start at. And look, I don't take nothing away from the women, because there are some women out there that don't know where to start neither, right? But they're a little bit more susceptible to getting that support and being surrounded by other women.
And men have this imposed burden on them of
Right.
having
Yes.
the strength of the family. I'm the man of the house, so I need to be strong for everybody in this difficult situation. Well, that's great for everybody else, but what about you?
Well, and I want to add an extra element to that, because, like I said, if no one heard me before when I was talking about me going into the hospital and things like that, and then coming out and have to let people know that, hey, I'm gonna need some time to heal. I had just lost my younger cousin too, so I got hit back to back. I was just dealing with 3 other losses from some other men who lost their battles with addiction. And as someone who works with men and things like that, I do my best not to get emotionally attached to a lot of things, right? But then, when you get hit back to back and one of them hits you real personally, it's kind of hard to put other people first. But I did. Because that's what was expected of me. Now, when it got too bad and I went into the hospital, I came out, I said, look, I don't want to talk business. I don't want to talk nothing right now. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I need some time to think, to get myself in the position to where I'm not completely drained. Now, for the grief workers out there and things like that, this is where I get on your case, because the same things that we teach other people to give people time was the same things that you did to me. You looked at me and saw the person, you saw the person that you can always call on. But then, if I would have taken it personally, I wouldn't be here right now. But I didn't take it personally. But I will tell you, don't keep making that mistake, because anyone else that you would have done that to would have felt as if you don't care about what I'm going through. It's all about you.
Correct.
And so, and I tell this to everyone out there listening. Look, I'm a grief worker, and you may look at me like I'm something different than other than a human being, and luckily I know not to take things personally.
Yeah,
But I will
we're
tell
all
you,
in this together.
yeah, it could have done a lot of damage to me if I would have, though. Right?
Oh, yeah, it hurts.
It sucks.
I've been through it. In 2008, when the stock market crashed, I lost every penny to my name.
Mm.
And when that happened, the very first thing that I noticed is that all of my friends vanished too.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, it was a beautiful thing, because it showed me the truth and it gave me the opportunity to rebuild my life one brick at a time.
Yes.
And so I chose each brick individually and on purpose.
Mm.
So when I rebuilt myself and rebuilt my life, I rebuilt it the way I wanted to build it. And I wasn't so much concerned about pleasing other people.
Right.
And as a result of that, I am a lot happier today. I just think that there's wisdom in that, and you need to understand that you've got to do what's right for you. You've got to take care of your mental and physical health, because you're the poorest person in the world if you don't have your health.
Right.
You can have all the money in the bank, but it does not matter. Ask Stephen Jobs. Stephen Jobs died of pancreatic cancer. He had more money than God, and it just doesn't matter, because when you've got cancer, and it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. Your life is going to end.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate equalizer. It equalizes the playing field in those last few moments. And you realize that your health and your mental and emotional well-being is the single most valuable thing that you will ever own.
Yes.
And if you don't take care of your mental and emotional and physical health, you literally have absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And I want to add to that as well, right? Because, I was talking with one of my colleagues earlier, and I was just telling them, I was like, look, it's not about the quantity of life that you live, it's the quality of life that you live. We're
Absolutely.
all right now, we've already got our birthday. And if you're privileged enough, you don't know when your death date is going to be. So everything in between there, you get to choose how that is written out,
Mhm.
right? And if you anything like you or myself or many others out there that are out there doing amazing work, you wanted to leave something behind to help people follow in the footsteps, so they can have a fighting chance at this thing, right? Because look, life is not fair or unfair. Life is just life, and life sometimes want a life on you. That's it. And look, nothing is guaranteed in this life except for death, right?
Taxes.
And taxes, right? But if you some people out there like I'm not paying taxes on right? But on a different level, on that level, right? Death is always guaranteed, man. Death will always be guaranteed. Death will be guaranteed before taxes.
And
As long as you're
the
breathing this air.
the truth of the situation is that death can be a beautiful thing.
Yes, it can be.
And if you learn to see the beauty in all things, if you train your brain, and this is a skill that you have to develop, it's not a personality trait, it's not something you're born with.
Mhm.
You have to teach yourself this. But when you give yourself the blessing of looking for the beauty in every situation, even the situations that are most difficult and most challenging for you, it changes who you are on a DNA level.
Right. Yes.
And it really that is a superpower of mine. That's one of my spidey senses, because it sometimes, and I'm not always successful at it. There are times, something happened the other day in my life that pissed me off so bad I couldn't see straight. All I could see was red. I was just so angry. I was beyond myself. And some of my team members came over to me and said, Stephen, I've never seen you like this before. And when they said that, it caught my attention and it brought me back to center. And I realized, whoa, I'm allowing external things to affect me internally.
Right. Yes.
And that's something that I have trained myself to do over the last 20 years. I do not allow, or I try my best not to allow external events to affect me internally.
Mhm.
And when you stop living in a reactionary way, most people go through their lives, when something happens, they react to it. And that's a really bad way to live emotionally, mentally, physically. It's just not good. When you take yourself out of the reactionary mindset and you stop reacting to what's happening, and you start looking at things as just information. My father told me when I was a kid, there's no good news or bad news. There's only news.
Mhm.
We're the ones that put the label on it. We decide whether it's good or bad.
Yes.
And, someone knocking on your door saying that there's a dog that's been hit on the highway is a very different experience from someone knocking on your door and saying, I hit your dog on the highway.
Yes.
Those are two very different experiences.
Yes.
But yet it's the exact same information. So when you train yourself from a mental and emotional perspective not to react in those knee-jerk pre-programmed ways
Mhm.
that we all have as human beings, you regain a huge part of control in your life that you are missing, or that you feel like you're missing.
Yes.
And it puts you back in the driver's seat, because now the same information has been presented to you, but now you have the opportunity to choose your response.
Mhm.
And when you begin to see the world that way, and you begin to choose to look for the beauty, when something really bad happens in your life, stop. Just come to a complete stop and just simply ask yourself, how am I going to choose to view this situation? Just by asking yourself that question, you have now put yourself back in the driver's seat of that situation. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's one of the things, just like yourself, I figured this out a long time ago. But it took me being with a narcissist to figure it out, right? Because she taught me, right? You know what I'm saying? Because there were some things that she had did to me, but she being the extreme narcissist that she was, you know, that I kept having an emotional reaction to it, right? And it kept feeding her. And so the more of an emotional
purpose. That was the purpose of her being the way that she was to you, was to get you to react.
But see, I never knew that, right? Because no one ever taught me what a narcissist was. And I was in my 30s. So I never, growing up, you know, and being around some of the people that I was around, I never knew what a narcissist was.
Right.
I knew that there were some people out there that was just assholes, right? You know what I'm saying? And you know, I was around a different variety of people, but never the guys that I was around, no one ever said, hey, that person's a narcissist or this person is a narcissist. I just thought that they was dicks or assholes, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to deal with this person, right? When I got with her, when she was done with me, I was done. She had stripped me down to the bone.
You were a fraction of your former self.
Right. And well, I was a shadow of my former self.
And that was by design, Tony. That was exactly her goal.
Yeah,
because that's where she finds her power. And by controlling other men, she has power and control, which makes her feel secure in herself.
Right. But I didn't understand that though.
None of us do until we experience and go through it. But she derives her self-worth and her self-assurity comes from your demise and destruction.
And you know, it took me a long time to figure it out. It took me over 2 years to figure it out, right?
But you did it. You figured it out.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't, right? But the damage, you know, and the thing that kept me going, the thing that helped me figure it out is because I went, you know what? My son needs someone in his life that does have some sense. And so that's what kept me going. I said, you know what? All right, cool. So what ended up happening, I started searching for these answers in the midst of rebuilding myself to become a better version of me for my son. So I had to let go of a lot of things. I had to learn the difference between reaction and response, right? And so when I realized what she was doing, and I used to do little stupid stuff to see what she would do, just to see what she would do. And once I figured that part out, I went, let me try this over here, right? And so when I started responding, she realized that, you know, over I would say over a span of maybe about 5-6 months, when she realized what I was doing, and she realized that I wasn't giving her the reaction that she wanted from me, then she started going and after other people to come after me, right? You know what I'm saying? And then once they realized that, hey, I'm not the one that's up to her, you know, that woman caused a lot of grief between a lot of people. And, you know, and I used to always tell, you know, well, no, actually, I didn't try to tell them because no one wanted to believe me anyway, right? Half the stuff that she said, if I was on the opposite end, I would have been like, oh, that dude's freaking crazy, right? I would have believed it too.
I'll tell you, I coach a young married couple. They have 2 children. They're in their early 30s. They have some really serious emotional problems between them both. And I've been working with them for about a year. And one of the things that they have a challenge with is they both think they're right, and no one's willing to give on either side. So they often create conflict. And recently, in one of our sessions, I just simply said to them, you know, I think both of you should get a divorce and divide the family. And I think you should just go your separate ways. And they were kind of shocked. And they looked at me and they were like, why? That's kind of extreme. And I'm like, is it? I'm like, the two of you clearly don't like each other. The two of you clearly cannot communicate.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same issues over and over and over again. Why stay in a marriage that has this much dysfunction and this much unhappiness for both of you? And the guy said, I agree. And the female said, where will I go? What will I do? And I suddenly said to her, okay, so now we know that one of you is no longer invested in the relationship and the other one clearly is. Because the one that said, I'm ready, the male who said, I'm ready to end this, let's end it, he had been thinking about this and he understood he was no longer happy and wanted to leave. She had never thought about that because she didn't have a strategy in her mind of what she would do or where she would go.
Right.
And when we got them both on that level, it opened up a new path of communication, and the two of them began communicating in a very different way. And sometimes this particular couple will stay together, and I absolutely think their marriage is valid and they'll work through this. And I think that they'll stay together for the sake of the kids. And they both truly do love each other. They just can't communicate. But we're teaching them new ways of communicating with each other. And I think, though, there are some times, especially when you're in a relationship with a narcissist like you were, where you have to simply walk away.
Right.
For your own mental, emotional well-being, and even the mental and emotional well-being of the children.
Yes.
But
you know, it kind of it really backfired on me because I didn't realize the extent of damage that she was going to do to my son. I didn't, and that's the part that really caught me off guard. Was, you know, because I told myself,
that makes you angry.
Oh, yeah, it made me very angry, right? And I'll touch on that just a little bit. So when I walked away, or I threatened to, well, I didn't really threaten to walk away from her. I had already packed up my stuff. I said, I'm out. This woman told me to my face, and I didn't catch on to it. She goes, where are you going to go? I've already moved you away from everybody that you know. You know nobody up here. I said, oh, no, she didn't.
Tony, I hate to tell you this, but you were married to a pimp.
Yeah, she turned it around on me.
She had separated and isolated you from all the other pimps on the corner so no one could get a hold of you.
Right? That's what I'm saying. I'm over here talking on Instagram, right? That's what I'm saying. Wow, right? He hit it right on the head, right? You know, but I never realized that. Neither because of the simple fact when she said it, I said, oh my, and I've been around pimps, killers, drug dealers, and gangbangers all my whole entire life. And she poured the game on me. And
she slowly and very stealthily, she just isolated you.
Yeah.
So in the event that this situation ever happened, you didn't have any place to go or any support system. And she would be able, this is classic narcissistic behavior.
Right.
And on top of that, I'll tell you that she was playing 3D chess with you because she was 3 moves ahead of you at all times.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, right? Because she taught me to be a better 3D chess player as well, right? And so once I did that, when I made the decision, I said, you know what? I'm leaving anyway, and I had to become homeless. And you know, and so I was
that's better. So listen, sometimes it's better to have peace of mind and no place to stay,
right,
than it is to have a place to stay and no peace of mind.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I did. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I have to go.
I'm going to risk it.
Yeah, I'm going to risk it, and I did, which was the best thing for me, right? You know,
absolutely.
But what ended up happening though, Stephen, is that this is where it gets really heartbreaking, because when she realized that I wasn't coming back, she took it out on my son. right? She began to physically and verbally assault him and his sister at the time, which is now trans. You know, and
The only card she had left. She had no other card to play
right,
in the game
right.
except for that.
And so she did, man. She like, you know, like she used to throw flower pots at him, throw plates at him, wouldn't feed them. They used to get drunk all the time and this, that, and nothing. I didn't find this stuff out until 2.5 years later, till when CPS actually stepped in and took the kids out of the home. That's when everything started to come out, right? And I was just like, how? How could you do that to your own children? But then it dawned on me.
She's a narcissist.
Yeah, right. She was a very dangerous narcissist, and she was just that intelligent. Mm-hmm. Like if you was in the same room with her and you had a conversation with her, you would be impressed just because of the conversation that you had with her, right? Because she was dangerously smart. But then there's that hint of that narcissism that makes you go, oh, whoa, did you really just say that? Right? And then to have you turn it around like, yeah, you need to be careful. Now, I love that you said that she was always 3 steps ahead of me. This woman taught me not only to how to be 3 steps ahead of people, but also, you know what I'm saying, to increase that by 17 more. So whenever I make a move, I'm already 20 steps ahead. I've already analyzed all the pieces on the board, you know what I'm saying, to protect my one main asset, which is my queen. Now, I don't like to use pawns. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I know how to move strategically myself. She taught me how to survive in a way that will blow your mind, right? Not only just the world that we're in, but, you know what I'm saying, it's survive myself. And what I mean by that, with the amount of stuff that I had been carrying all of my whole entire life, she helped me. She's the one I have to give her credit. She's the one who helped me start to navigate those different losses. Right? Because what I saw was a reflection of myself that I didn't like. So I said, if I don't like this, I need to make the necessary steps in order to change the things that I like. But also, she gave me purpose with my son to be able to go, I see him and I want to be better for him. Mm-hmm. I want to be a better man. I want to be a good father. Mm-hmm. I want to be a role model. I want to set a path for him that's going to set him up for success, right? So it changed the way that I not only saw the world, but it taught me how to be, my son taught me how to be a good father, mm-hmm. right? By helping me see the world through his eyes. Mm-hmm. But also—
Tony, let me leave you with this piece of wisdom.
Yes.
And then I have to go.
Yes.
But I want to leave. I think this is so important in your specific situation. Now is the time for you to transform the way you think about her into gratitude.
Yes.
This is how you're going to make peace with her and how you're going to get your power back. And that is by being grateful to her for all she taught you, for the wisdom she gave you, for the new skill set that she gave you with learning how to play 3D chess, all of those things. At this point in your process, you are at an inflection point for yourself, because you've moved through it with your son. You've moved through the situation. It's done. It's over with. Now we have to transform the way we think and feel about this person. Mm-hmm. We need to let go of the anger. We need to let go of all of those divisive feelings and transform it into gratitude.
Yes. When
you become thankful for the lessons that she has taught you, you honor the teacher, and you, in a way, release it. It no longer has any control or power on you when you do that, because you're coming from a place of gratitude. And when you're able to look at that horrible situation and see the beauty in what it brought to you today, mm-hmm. and the man that you are today, the father that you are today in this moment, It's extraordinary, and it's a gift. And you should be grateful every single day to her for this, because you wouldn't be the man you are today. You wouldn't have the wisdom
Yes.
that you have today. You wouldn't be the father that you are today for that young man had you not gone through this experience. Don't you agree?
I do agree. I want to add this in there because my son passed away 9 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry
So
to hear
you know
that.
what I'm saying, and that's why I say, you know, like when my son was around, yes, it was. I do appreciate everything that she's ever done because she did help me. She gave me something that I would have never got. She gave me more time with him, right? She helped me have that one-on-one time with him. But it also gave him something. It gave him a sense of safety with me. And so, you know, when I look at this life now and everything, I'm not mad at her. I'm not mad, right? This life has already taken everything. So I can't be mad, right? But it's given me so much more in return.
Mm-hmm.
It's given me a chance to have purpose and meaning in this world. It's given me a path to walk upon. It's given me an outlet to be able to become wiser, but more giving with the gift that I was giving to other people. But also it gives me an opening to have conversations with individuals like Stephen Diamond and you know and so many more amazing people out here in the world, because this knowledge that I have, this is me searching knowledge. Every time I'm searching for something, someone comes in and go, hey, have you ever thought about this? Like today, man, I got so much out of this. And I know you got to go and everything. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for everybody on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Guys, thank you guys for tuning in today. And if this is your first time and you have not already, head on over to that YouTube channel, which is right there down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But also, my website is up there. I normally don't ask people to do this, but I get so many questions and people that want to. But if you would like to donate to my nonprofit, the website is right there. Also, the magazine that we were talking about will be out. If you guys would like your subscription, go in there and get your subscription. We offer a month-to-month, 6-month, and a 12-month subscription base as well. We're going to keep bringing this information to you guys. And like Stephen said, he just wrote a magazine which is going to be in there, which has a prompt in there. Go in there, copy and paste it. This is the digital version. Copy and paste it. And put your information in there and let it guide you. Now, with that being said, Stephen, how can people find you?
StephenDiamond.com.
StephenDiamond.com. And if you could leave the audience with something today, what would you leave them with?
I'll tell you, the most important thing in my life is living authentically. And I think it all starts from there. I think that when you learn how to live your authentic truth, life just gets better because you start attracting originality, authenticity to you.
Yes.
And so I encourage people, find out who and what you truly are. Mm-hmm. Learn to believe in your abilities, because you're far stronger, you're far more important, and you're far more powerful than even you understand.
Yes.
And when you open yourself up to possibilities, miraculous things happen. But when you're living in a closed environment, if you're living from a place of fear, if you're afraid, if you're isolating yourself, if you're doing all of these kind of destructive behaviors, you're only going to get more of that. But when you open yourself up and you come from a place of love and authenticity deep inside of you, it has no choice but to change your very existence.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And with that being said, you guys, we're going to close out this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Guys, we're going to see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and everything. If you've just now tuned in and things like that, the episode will be up as soon as we get off. So head on over there, check out the whole episode. But also do me a favor, go and check out the other episodes as well. If you want to know more about Stephen, he's in one of my early episodes as well. Go over there and check that out. And with that being said, you guys, I love you guys. I thank you guys for your support, and we're going to see you guys in the next one. All right. You guys have a really, really wonderful day. Peace. Stephen, thank you for being on the show, brother.
My pleasure. Anytime. Take care,
Awesome.
Tony.